southeastern Tennessee to a place known as Thunder Valley. It's one of motorsport's most iconic venues, the Bristol Motor Speedway. The excitement level is extremely high, especially coming off a thriller a week ago in New Hampshire.
Finally, ready to launch here, New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Tanner Faust way out front, and that's where he's going to try and stay.
Tanner Faust is still leading this race on the final lap. Will he go for the inside? Oh, Faust trying to hold.
No!
Oh, Tommy Heikkinen takes the turn. Heikkinen is going to win in New Hampshire. Faust, a huge mistake.
Well, I didn't have the best last lap, but crossed the line eventually.
Toppy flexing a little loud in muscle here.
Like I said, I have best car.
Tommy Heikkinen keeping the pressure on, ran a smart race.
The Bristol Motor Speedway, always one of the most popular stops on the NASCAR circuit, and certainly proving to be one of them on the Global Rallycross venues as well. The first time for Global Rallycross here in Thunder Valley. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Massaro, joined by my co-driver, Jen Horsey, and we've got a lot of action ahead of us here this afternoon. Round one of the heats already in the books. That established lane selection, but still, round two remains 3 heats. The first 2 will have 4 cars in it. The third will have 5. The top 2 finishers advance to the final. All others go to the last chance qualifier. And last week, well, quite a finish, Jen, as it looked like Tanner Faust had this one well in hand going into the final corner.
He led for 9 laps, but under pressure from Topi Heikkinen there, just misses the braking point, straight into the guardrail, threw it all away, crossed the line in 4th place.
And Topi Heikkinen took the victory, but the man with the bitter defeat was Tanner Faust. Alyssa Roenick spoke to him.
All right, so Tanner, we just watched that final. You're 2-time defending champ here. Certainly an uncharacteristic mistake. You've had some time to look at the tape. What would you have done differently in holding off Topi in that final turn?
Honestly, I got kind of a bad exit out onto that straightaway. On paper, it was the exact right thing to do. My spotter did exactly what he was supposed to do, and I just didn't realize how much dirt there was stacked in there from the rain, because in the dry you just couldn't see it. So I probably would have just gone deep on the brakes on the racing line, and if Toppy would have tried to pass, he honestly would have taken us both out on that gravel. So maybe he owes me for the damage I saved him. Is that one way you can look at it? Hopefully not, but I'm definitely using the lesson learned for good, not evil, and I'm ready to do battle here in, what is it, the last arena in the world? Is that the idea?
The last great Coliseum, I think they call it, yeah. Okay. And so speaking of Bristol Motor Speedway, this is a very different track than we've seen in GRC. You guys were able to get out there 5 wide earlier in Heat 1. What did you learn in that first heat that you're going to bring into this next one?
Well, the turn 2, where everything bottlenecks in, is in one single file lane. So turn 1, you were hoping that you could get around the bank on the outside and pass on the outside. I think that will be tricky. I am sure, however, it's tempting enough that people will try. And so this though, by itself, just the fact that the track has torn so many tires off and wrecked so many cars, is a battle of attrition. So we're going to simply have to keep the car running. All
right, well, it's going to be an exciting day of racing. Let's get back to it.
Thank you, Alyssa. And when it comes to NASCAR racing here, this is an always very fast and always unforgiving racetrack. I expect that reputation to continue with Rallycross, Jen. This is a challenging course.
The course here in Bristol is half a mile long, but it's a slightly different configuration than we're used to seeing in NASCAR. For starters, a third of it's dirt, and there's that big dirt tabletop jump. The Joker lap must be taken once per race, and it looks shorter, but with a chicane, it's actually going to take a little longer to get through it. Big story here is a 30-degree banking, which is unlike anything we've seen before in Rallycross. Let's take a look at Ken Block making a pass on this bank earlier today. From a strategy standpoint, it's about using the banking and adjusting your turn-in to make a move. This is a great pass from Ken Block.
And talking to drivers yesterday, Jen, it seems like they'd never had that sensation of going that fast through that much banking on a track before. Taking a look now at our royal purple starting grid. Ken Block, he's been the fastest throughout the course of the day so far. Brian Deegan also here. Tanner Faust, you can see him at the top of your screen on the front row, the black and yellow car. Topi Heikkinen, the white and blue car on the second row, aside Bucky Lassick. That is your starting grid. 10 seconds remaining before the green flag.
Interesting choice on the start position here. Ken Block by rights had start priority. He got to choose, and he picked the middle. We'll see if that works out for him. in the tricky first corner here in Rallycross.
Lies in the front row now. Tanner Faust trying to make up from a missed opportunity a week ago in New Hampshire. Green flag is out, and it's Deegan with the big jump. He'll lead, but a battle side by side for second between Faust and Block. They get bottled up heading into that second set of corners. And yesterday, some of the drivers were telling me, Jen, that was going to be calamity corner this afternoon.
Tanner Faust said it earlier. That is a risky move to try and make a move on that banking, and it's a little bit unpredictable. These guys have not faced this kind of banking before.
And Ken Block is your leader, trying to pull away. You can see he works his way up toward that top of the banking. Variable degrees of banking from 24 degrees all the way to 30 degrees at the top. And he's choosing to go as far up as possible, at least in that first set of corners. That set of corners, though, he kind of worked the apron there as he made his way down into the dirt.
And the trick there is the transition between the apron and the banking. That transition's pretty sharp, and it can cause you some trouble. There goes Toppy into the Joker lap. And he comes out in the same position.
Now that's shorter in distance, that Joker lap, but with the chicane, it's a little bit slower and very tricky. We're going to have to pay attention to that throughout the course of the afternoon. Ken Block out front by about 3 or 4 car lengths. Topi Heikkinen back in third. Right now, he has taken the Joker lap, as has Tanner Faust. Faust has problems, too. He stopped at the top of the bank.
Oh, no, I can't see what's wrong there, but he's just not even able to get his car in gear. There we go, first gear, gonna move, but that is going to mean he's going to advance through to the LCQ. He's not going to make it through this final.
Yeah, and that's exactly the opposite of what he wanted to do here to get things underway and try to put New Hampshire behind him. He'll have to advance to the final through the LCQ, certainly the hard way. Meanwhile, Ken Block, he's been the fastest throughout the course of the day, the #1 seed. Won his heat in the first round and picking up right where he left off, and he seems to be so far unchallenged. Hasn't taken the Joker lap yet, either has Brian Deegan. Deegan still trying to reel him in as they go up toward the top of the banking once again, off turn 2, heading down through the dirt.
And watch that transition between the banking and the apron there. They're pinching tires right off the bead, and that's a big problem. Running on a flat tire in this course in particular is going to be very tricky. We haven't seen it yet, but I do expect to see a number of flat tires during competition today.
Yeah, lots of lateral load, especially when they come off the flat portion of the racetrack and just throw it into the banking at speed. Now contact. A lot of aggression by Heikkinen. Heikkinen trying to sweep underneath Deegan, trying to take over that second spot. Remember, the top 2 advance to the final, so obviously a lot on the line there.
Wow, and look at all the air they're getting over the jump. That jump is in the middle of a straightaway. They're actually braking a little bit to set their speed for it, and they're getting huge air.
Block, the only driver not to have taken the Joker lap yet. Heikkinen applying a lot of pressure, trying to work his way to the inside of Deegan. Deegan closing the door, holding him off. Wow, they slide through that corner, and now Deegan opens the door. Meanwhile, back up front, Ken Block over the tabletop, taking the checkered flag, took the Joker lap on his final circuit, and he picks up the win in his heat race, followed by Topi Heikkinen.
And so that means Heikkinen and Block will advance directly to the final. Everybody else goes to the LCQ. Little bit of contact there with Deegan and Heikkinen. It will be interesting to see. Maybe they'll exchange some words after this heat.
You know, Topi has starting to build his reputation as being a very aggressive driver, not one to give up any real estate easily, and Brian Deegan experiencing it there. Brian Deegan, obviously one of the more skilled drivers, certainly has a fast race car. It's going to be fun to watch him through the LCQ.
And a shame about Tanner Faust. He said earlier today that he was having a few transmission problems, and it may have been that gremlin that has cost him here.
And so far, Ken Block has established himself early on, Jen, as the favorite. He's been awfully good throughout the course of the afternoon. Let's take a look at how this thing played out. Green flag out. Brian Deegan looked great.
Great start from Brian Deegan. 3 Ford Fiestas in the front row there, and equally matched on power, as you can see them all funnel in to try and make this first corner.
A little bit dicey there as they funnel down, trying to get back to single file going through that area off the corner, but they do finally fan out a little bit and separate and get through there. Meanwhile, we've got Faust. He was a favorite coming into this. He wanted to put New Hampshire behind him, but the heat race ends with disappointment for him. Meanwhile, Brian Deegan making his way through the shortcut. A little bit of contact there with Heikkinen as they collided. One coming through the shortcut, the other going through the main course.
It isn't uncommon to see contact in Rallycross, but what will draw a black flag? That's the kind of move they don't like to see. If you're hitting directly from behind to take a position, they don't like that. But they got away with it.
And Ken Block picking up the victory. Drivers now outside the car. Tanner Faust assessing damage, trying to get ready for the LCQ. Global Rallycross Championship brought to you by Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms. And Dodge Dart. Dodge. New rules. Don't go away, everyone. We're coming right back.
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Arpin from Fort Francis, Ontario, Canada. I'm driving number 32 Royal Purple Ford Fiesta in the Global Rallycross Series. Come hop in and come take a lap with me around the high banks of Bristol Motor Speedway. It's going to be a wild ride. So this is wild through here. The cars are just shaking. They don't know what to do. All the way down to second gear here. It's a tight corner. It's really aggressive on transitioning the banking. You got to get a straight shot into the dirt. We're all the way up to fifth gear here through the dirt. It is loose as can be. It's crazy hard to handle through here. And onto the pavement here, it's slippery with all the dirt transferring onto the pavement. Back up onto the banking here, you feel like you could just take off and go as hard as you can. Nope, we got a chicane right here. We got to shut her down. Really get through there hard, but nice and straight for this jump to get a good, straight, clean shot off the jump. Back to the start-finish line here. Thanks for taking a lap with me around the world's fastest half mile. That concludes your GoPro course preview.
Well, you can't get a much more exciting ride around than that. Certainly Steve Arpin showing us what it takes to get around this very difficult track here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Coverage of Major League Baseball continues this week on ESPN. Sunday at 8, All-Star MVP Mariano Rivera and the New York Yankees try to make up some ground in the American League East when they visit Fenway Park to face David Ortiz and the first-place Boston Red Sox. Then Monday at 7, the Yankees' road trip continues in Texas, where they'll square off against Adrian Beltre and the Rangers. Both games are on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. We just witnessed in the heat race prior to this one that Tanner Faust, one of the favorites, having a bit of difficulty, and Alyssa Ronick caught up with him.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Tanner, what happened?
Actually got a decent start. I think I was even with Ken going into the first corner, which I wasn't expecting since the concrete's a little more slippery than the pavement. But I got just kind of hit in the back right corner in there. It was a little bit of a cluster going in there, and that sent me off the outside. I think it may have been something. But in any case, I got a little sideways coming on the bank, stripped both right tires off, and that's been the story of the weekend. It means I get to talk to you a lot more often, though, strangely. If you're not on the track, you're here to talk. But, oh, man. Well, so we're in the last chance qualifier. Got to put it together for that.
Well, so we're having more exciting LCQ now. Back up to you guys for this next heat.
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. And obviously, Tanner Faust, Jen, wants to do his talking with his race car rather than interviewing with Alyssa, as nice as she is. Now let's take a look at our royal purple starting grid. Actually, let's take a look now at what happened to Tanner in that first heat, Jen. And obviously, you can see that transition into the banking, very unforgiving.
And we are on with him as an onboard, and he just taps the wall, and that's 2 flat tires. Nothing he could do.
And as he said, the story of the weekend, it's happened to several competitors throughout the course of the weekend. Teams trying to figure out how to prevent that from happening. Now let's take a look at our royal purple starting grid for heat race number 2. And lots of big names in this, including Dave Mira, Patrick Sandell, Liam Doran, who was absent last week in New Hampshire and trying to make a big splash here in his debut at the Bristol Motor Speedway. We go back to the second row, and the Russian driver Timur Zanov is there as well. And on board with Liam Doran, you can see he's catching his thoughts, gathering his thoughts, I should say, as he prepares to attack this very challenging course. Timur Zanov, also a driver who has never been here before, probably never even seen Bristol Motor Speedway on TV, as I found most of the European and non-American drivers not being familiar with this racetrack, but certainly the Americans are. Green flag racing coming your way in a second or 2. There it is, green flag, and who's going to get the jump, Jen?
Patrick Sandell gets out front right there. He's been performing extremely well here. Very consistent performer, and won his very first heat race of the season earlier today. And there he is leading Liam Doran.
Yep, and Liam Doran going to take the Joker lap right away on the first lap. Slides up in traffic. Timur Zanov out in front of him. Dave Mira behind him. No contact there, but we have seen collisions at that point of the racetrack throughout the course of the weekend. It is a trouble spot indeed. Meanwhile, Patrick Sandell out front takes the tabletop jump and has opened up quite an advantage, it would appear, over the field now, about 4 or 5 car lengths as he heads down into the dirt.
That is on board right now with Liam Doran. That is exactly what you don't want to do with that Joker lap. It takes just a little longer, and you don't want to slot in closer behind somebody than you already were and give yourself a disadvantage, which is what he did. Now he's going to be trying to fight into that number 2 spot to make the transfer.
And a reminder, folks, that just the top 2 from this heat will advance to the final, and right now it looks like Patrick Sandell is very much in command. Timur Zanov, let's remind you folks, he's filling in that Red Bull car for Travis Pastrana. Pastrana taking care of duties with his nationwide team in the NASCAR series over at Chicagoland Speedway, unable to be here. And Timur Zanov trying to do Pastrana proud, running pretty strong right now, trying to advance to the final.
And that's Liam giving chase, and I talked to him earlier today. He said he was actually surprised how well his car was performing here. It's a little bit down on power, about 460 horsepower to everybody else's 550, 560. And but he's also just a little bit lighter because he's got a smaller engine displacement, so he gets a bit of a weight break. And on this track here, he's performing extremely well, very fast, and he's giving great chase here to Timur Zanov in that Dodge Dart.
Doran, though, starting to apply a little bit of pressure, looking for that second spot. Doran has taken the Joker lap. The other 3 have not at this point. Now, Doran was not in New Hampshire a week ago, but still very much in this championship chase. Needs to make up some points here this weekend and advance to the final. And it looks like Timur Zanoff a little bit slow coming through that corner. May have given an opportunity to Doran. Can he capitalize? We'll find out momentarily as, well, Timur Zanoff trying to take the Joker lap there, Jen, but has trouble.
And straight off the course for Timur Zanoff, handing it back, handing that position back to Doran. Wow, he's back on course, but that cost him a ton of time.
Yeah. I don't know if he can recover from that one. Doran taking the tabletop jump very smoothly, but look at the distance between him and Sandell. Can he reel him in? That's the question here as they come down through the dirt area and back onto the, it's not asphalt, it's concrete, but it's some pretty extreme banking. He goes toward the top.
And you can really see that transition there as they come on and off between the banking and the apron. And there's Sandell across the finish.
Checkers are out, and Sandell picks up the victory in heat race number 2, followed by Liam Doran and Timur Zanoff. Your top 3, Dave Mira, deep in the field, finishing 4th in that heat race. And Liam Doran, quite focused. Talked to him earlier this weekend, told me he really doesn't have any friends out there, Jen. He's all out there doing nothing but one thing, looking for the win.
He is looking for the win. Very competitive driver, one of the more aggressive drivers in the field. Got into it a little bit with Toppy when we saw him in Munich. He believes Toppy robbed him of a second victory on that race weekend, and very competitive and looking to put in some clean but strong performances here.
Okay, so here's how this one played out. Green flag was out. Doran didn't quite get the jump he was looking for. Sandell, however, was very fast. Dave Mara taking it to the top of the banking, but his attempt at taking over second spot wasn't very good. He would end up 4th. Meanwhile, Sandell was very strong, pulling away, and let's take a look now from Doran's perspective. Getting to those rocks just unforgiving. Just, let me tell you, they kick up, Jen. Those are not little pieces of sand. Those are big chunks of rock. Big problems here for Timur Zanoff trying to get through that Joker. You can see just how difficult it is getting through that chicane.
He just didn't have that turn at all. Locked him up and slid wide.
And it was all Patrick Sandell. Look at that car control. Just amazing as he gets through that rocky, loose stone area. Well, folks, just a reminder, Global Rallycross Championship is brought to you by Motegi. Designed and engineered for performance. Proud suppliers of the Ford Rallycross team and Ford. Go further. Welcome back to the world's fastest half mile, and if you're a NASCAR fan and have witnessed races here at the Bristol Motor Speedway, well, you're seeing something you probably have never seen before, and that's global rallycross here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And this week, the Nationwide Series, speaking of NASCAR, they're in Chicagoland Speedway as Austin Dillon looks to improve on his third-place spot and continue his chase up the standings. The NASCAR Nationwide Series at Chicago. Coverage begins Sunday at 2:30 Eastern on ESPN, also live on Watch ESPN. And Scott Speed is a guy with a little bit of NASCAR experience himself. He's run here at Bristol Motor Speedway several times, but as far as global rallycross goes, he's still getting his feet wet.
Made his debut in
Hey, what's up? I'm Scott Speed, driver of the number 77 RDO Ford Fiesta.
He's never driven on dirt. He's never jumped a race car in his life before. And Scott Speed wins the gold medal in rallycross. Fantastic!
My first GRC race was the X Games in Brazil. I was honestly just hoping to make the main event, but it was pretty quickly after that I realized that we had some pretty good speed and we'd have a shot at it. And obviously we came out with a gold medal, which was pretty special for the first try out.
I never jumped a car, never really raced one on dirt. Easily the most fun I've ever had.
One of the things that we discovered in Brazil on the flight back actually is that I'm the world's worst rock, paper, scissors player ever. And I ended up losing yet another match with Pastrana and Tanner. The bet was I had to do the moonwalk, which was, I'm sure, very lame. And I apologize for that, but I cannot dance. Rallycross is definitely the most extreme, I would say. It's definitely very aggressive. There's a lot of different type of drivers in our sport. You know, you got skateboarders, BMX guys, Pastrana. You got other racers like Steve Arpin and Tanner Faust. So the demographic of our racing, competitors is quite vast. Just looking forward to going out there and learning more about these cars and how they want to race. The racing itself is so fast-paced, it's very much a sprint race, more so than anything else I've ever done. So it's been a really cool experience to learn these cars.
And Scott Speed had instant success in Bristol with the victory, but has had some humbling moments since. This weekend, though, has been rather good for him. He's been very fast, the number 3 seed. Taking a look at our royal purple starting grid. And a very talented third heat race. Steve Arpin, another guy with NASCAR experience, although he's never run here at Bristol Motor Speedway. Alongside Scott Speed, we've got Sverre Isaacson. And we move back to the final row, and Bryce Menzies. And again, we remind you, 2 of these drivers will advance to the final 10 seconds remaining before the green flag. What do you think of the starting grid here, Jen, as far as lane selection?
Scott Speed has the lane choice here, and he has again chosen that middle. So the drivers have decided that the middle position is the one with the advantage coming out of that start.
All right, keep an eye on that white car. That's Scott Speed. Sverre Isaacson in the blue and yellow machine tucked up underneath him, and to the outside, that's where you'll find Steve Arpin in the black car. Menzies up behind them in row number 2. Green flag is out. Who's got the jump? They look pretty even headed down that start and into the corner, and give the advantage to Speed. He gets up toward the top of the bank, and we've got contact behind him between Arpin and Isaacson, and it looks like Speed got out of shape and out of the groove, and he's in trouble.
The same thing that happened to Tanner Faust in that first corner. They're just funneling in. That gives the advantage to Bryce Menzies, who wasn't even here for practice. He was racing in the Torque Series in Chicagoland.
Yeah, wasn't even in the car until seating, and he's picking up as if he hasn't missed a beat. May not have the experience on this racetrack that the other drivers do. However, he's got some speed, obviously, and has the advantage, although very slim, only about a car length advantage over Isaacson.
And sometimes that is the best strategy through that first corner or through the first funnel point, is just stay out of the mess and capitalize on an error. There's Isaacson going through the Joker lap and coming out 2 cars in behind.
Got through there clean, and that's important. We've seen several collisions throughout the course of the weekend at that very particular point on the racetrack. Steve Arpin now closing ground, putting some pressure on Menzies, trying to get a look to the inside. Is there enough room? Trying to set him up off the corner. He'll dive down to the bottom, gets up on the rear deck of that car, applying some pressure. They're nose to tail battling for the lead.
Two guys new to Rallycross, Bryce Menzies, short course off-road racer, and Steve Arpin, who's got his NASCAR experience and a little bit of dirt track racing too.
And Isaacson just sitting back there waiting for something to happen, waiting for his opportunity. He can see these guys beating and banging on each other and thinking maybe his opportunity is going to present itself. A pass for the lead, Arpin to the inside.
Aggressive move on that bank, which we've seen can fight you. Isaacson in third position there is the only driver to have successfully navigated the Joker. Menzies and Arpin.
Arpin hits the chicane and the Joker and loses significant ground. Jen lost 2 spots on that.
And that's exactly what Isaacson was hoping to see. And that's the way the Joker works. You go in there, it's an alternate lap, and you win some, you lose some.
All right, so back up front. Isaacson trying to close the gap on Menzies. Menzies taking a higher line through the corner, looking down low as Isaacson. Let's see how they point their nose, and can he get alongside? Not at the moment. Gets back in his tire tracks and follows him through the gravel. Use that term loosely. Like I said, it's not gravel. It's loose stones. It kicks up and it can do some damage.
We saw him between the first round of heats and these heats that we're watching now, replacing windshields because the gravel was coming right through the windshields, just spraying through it like bullets.
White flag is out, and who's going to come away with a win? You can't ask for a better finish than this. Isaacson looking to the inside of Menzies. Menzies trying to close the door, works to the top of the banking, back on the accelerator down through the dirt. Isaacson right there on the rear bumper. And once again, Menzies taking the shortcut. Where will he come out? Oh, he loses 2 spots.
That is a shortcut. It's tough. It's worth about a car length and a half, and that's what he just lost.
Perhaps a misnomer, not really a shortcut. Lost 2 spots there. Isaacson will take the victory, followed by Arpin. And Menzies will have to qualify through the last chance qualifier. Tough break for him. Didn't get through that chicane area as quickly as he had hoped. Isaacson, well, he was very patient, ran a very smart race, watched what was going on in front of him, the battle, and just waited for his moment and took advantage.
Very experienced Rallycross competitor and the kind of performance you expect to see from a guy like Isaacson.
Here's how it played out. Scott Speed, a lot of attention paid to him early on, got a great jump, could not get through the first couple of corners. Everything bottles up here. Speed got kicked out of the racing groove, and well, that was pretty much all she wrote for him. Meanwhile, tight racing up front, Isaacson and Menzies door to door through the gravel. Great pictures and great racing. Steve Arpin, it looked like he had a shot. Final circuit, going for his Joker lap, and well, we call it a shortcut. Not really sure why. Lost 2 spots there, and not a shortcut for him by any stretch of the imagination. Menzies and Isaacson were left to battle for the victory, and well, Isaacson had a great car and a great approach, and it certainly paid off as he picks up the heat race win in heat race number 3.
So that's Sverre Isaacson and Steve Arpin advancing directly to the final. And you know, that's the Joker lap. It looks on the map like it's shorter, but they've got the chicane in the middle, and it's a couple, second and a half, 2 seconds slower than the main lap. You got to take it once per heat, and we're seeing what happens when the cars dive in there.
You can see that car battle scarred and beaten already after the heat race. The team will go to work on that, trying to get it polished up a little bit, get ready for the final. Let's check in now in the paddock area with Alyssa.
Yeah, and guys, so speaking of the paddock, I'm actually on the infield, and unlike most of the tracks we're at, this track has a manual gate that was scheduled to open after these first heats, which means all the guys with damage have not been able to get their cars back to the paddock. So for drivers like Tanner Faust and Dave Mira, who just need to replace some tires, not a big deal. Brian Deegan told me his car is totaled. He's not sure that he's even going to have time to get that car fixed and back out here for the LCQ. So that's something to watch in these next few minutes.
Wow. You know, Jen, I come from the NASCAR world, and in the NASCAR world, the distance between the final practice and the race is usually at least 12 hours or so. They've got about 12 minutes. This seems like it's quite the challenge for the teams.
These guys can fix quite a lot in 12 minutes. We'll see how totaled Brian Deegan's car actually is when the mechanics get another look at it, but they want every second of their time, and I can tell you that there are mechanics just seething in the pits right now as they wait for their cars to come back.
Well, they definitely have their work cut out for them. If there's one thing that's consistent about this Bristol Motor Speedway, regardless of what series you're in, it's never easy. Now, a lot of these drivers are here for the first time. Some of them may have seen it on TV, some of them may not have, but all of them are getting a very big dose of reality of what it takes to be successful here at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Rally car at NASCAR. This is the biggest showcase of motorsports in America. And if rally car is going to work, this is the platform that's going to take it to that level.
Pretty gnarly banking. I've driven some pretty good banking tracks, so it's basically like driving a straight line, but you know, you're just totally sideways.
I don't get a lot of opportunities to see these kind of tracks because I've obviously been from Europe, so it's really cool to see it. And yeah, this is definitely one of the crazy ones I've seen.
Welcome back to Global Rallycross from Bristol, Tennessee, one of the most beautiful portions of the United States, northeastern Tennessee, about 100 miles from Knoxville. And speaking of Knox, drivers are taking some hard ones here today in the Global Rallycross. A very challenging course has been laid out. Some big names are being forced to qualify for the final through the last chance qualifier. That is coming up momentarily. And we have seen some great racing action throughout the course of 2013. Back in Munich, Jen, we saw the budding images of a rivalry between Topi Heikkinen and Liam Durham.
That's Liam in the Mini, that Monster Energy car, and the white Ford Fiesta. That is Topi Heikkinen. That's not a new rivalry as we see them bashing doors. They've bashed doors before in Europe. And Liam Doran really thought that he was robbed of a podium with that contact.
And, you know, as Topi celebrated the victory, well, Liam, not too happy. And Alyssa caught up with Liam. She's with him now, actually.
So Liam, not a man who hides his emotions. You were clearly upset at the end of that Munich race. Have you gone back and be able to look at the tape, and do you feel any differently about the racing that day?
No, not at all. I stand by my opinions, and yeah, I still feel the same. I'm not interested in it now, though. I've moved on. I've had a lot of races since then. I've done 3 events already since Munich, so I need to win another one. That's done now. It's over and done with, and what happened, and it was a good weekend overall. So I'm just moving into the next one.
So you've done 3 events since then, but this is the first global Rallycross event since then. You say you've moved past it, but you're known as an aggressive driver as well. Do you bring that aggression out onto the track with you, or are you able to completely put it away as soon as that start light?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that I'm a focused enough driver to be able to just think about what I need to think about, and thinking about what happened 3 events ago for me really isn't the way to win a race this weekend. So, yeah, I'm a committed driver, and I can focus on what the job is in hand. So the job in hand today isn't going back after what happened 3 events ago. It's about winning the event today, and so far it's going good. I'm in the final already, so I've just got to drive as best I can.
Well, that short-term memory has certainly helped you up to this point, but what about the memory just back to that last heat? What would you do differently? What did you learn in that heat that you're going to bring into this final?
Yeah, I joked too early in that heat. I joked on the first lap. I was right in the pack. I got a good start, but I didn't get around the first turn in the lead, and joked thinking I would be able to drop back and catch him back up, but all it meant was I just dropped back behind 2 of them and was getting the rocks and the stones from 2 cars instead of 1, and it's just destroyed the front of my car and couldn't see anything for the whole race. So if I could do it again, I would joke it later and give myself a cleaner race.
All right, well, you've got the final to do that, so we'll see you there.
Thank you, Alyssa. And obviously, emotions are always part of motorsports, no matter what series it is. But when you have something like this going on, you've got a little bit of a beef, so to speak, with another driver. Can this be a distraction?
It can be a distraction, but sometimes it fires you up too. And I think this has just made Liam more committed than he's ever been before to take down Topi Heikkinen when they get to the final.
Now, obviously, he is a very focused race car driver and very talented, and he's already scored a victory this year in Munich. It was a doubleheader, so to speak. In the first race, wet conditions, well, Liam Doran wasn't going to let anything prevent him from getting the victory tonight.
And this is him on the way to a win on a flat tire. Some incredible driving from Liam Doran here as he takes a checker and takes his first win of the season.
Absolutely amazing, undeterred, and certainly a guy who is all about winning. And you can see him sporting that gold medal there in Munich. Well, we just heard from Liam Doran. What about the other side of the story? Alyssa's with Topi.
I feel a little bit like Dr. Phil right now. So, Topi, we just talked to Liam about that finish in Munich. Clearly, he was a little vocally upset. When you've gone back and look at the tapes, how do you feel about the racing in Munich?
The Munich, yeah, it was a great race for me. I get a gold one and goalless one, but in case it was a tough race with me and Liam, but I don't know what happened with me and Liam, but still we're racing together and we have to have a little contact in this sport.
Sure, it's a contact sport. You guys are aggressive drivers. Do you bring that aggression with you, or are you able to sort of leave this in the paddock and go out and race a clean race?
We see in the future how it goes. Let's see.
And so, you know, we just took a look at the injury you sustained almost a year ago. When you look back over your season this past year, what do you think about how far you've come from that crash at X Games?
Yeah, we made a lot of work in the last winter, and even right now I'm so happy and really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm proud that I got to ride with the Ford, and I just keep my smiling on and I just enjoy.
All right, he's a guy who doesn't stop smiling, so let's see if we see him smiling through the rest of this day. Guys, back up to you.
He was awfully chipper, and he knows he's got a good race car, so that'll put a smile on any driver's face, I would think.
It will. Poor Topi. That was such a horrible crash at X Games, but you know, since then he came into the series as a very aggressive driver, making a lot of big moves, got some DQs last year for contact with other drivers, including Dave Mira and Travis Pastrana. And I think after that crash, he's mellowed and matured as a driver a little bit, and we're seeing great results from him, coming off 2 straight wins into this event.
You mentioned the incidents, and you know, when you've had several incidents like that, certainly you can build a reputation. That may not be a reputation that Topi wants to have. He wants to have a reputation as a clean driver and guy who is a consistent winner. He's proven that so far this year. He's won in each of the last 2 events. Global Rallycross Championship is brought to you by Puma, the official apparel and footwear supplier for Global Rallycross, and Subaru. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Welcome back to the Bristol Motor Speedway. You know, in about a month, all of those seats will be completely full, Jen, as the Sprint Cup Series comes here. This place is an iconic venue, certainly a big part of the NASCAR landscape, but quickly gaining a lot of popularity here with the global Rallycross fans. You can see them filling the front stretch grandstands as well, and they're about to see the last chance qualifier. Teams getting ready as the teams go to work on some of the damaged race cars, getting them prepared for the LCQ and for the final later this afternoon. Don't miss more action from the Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series as the circuit heads out to the thin air of Colorado at Vandermeer Speedway. The 34th annual Mopar Mile High NHRA Nationals. Qualifying is Saturday, July 20th at 10. Then the final Sunday, July 21st at 6. Both days on ESPN2 and also live on Watch ESPN. Alyssa Roenick has been covering all the action from the infield and the paddock and getting us all the stories. She's with Brian Deegan now.
I'm actually with Brian Deegan's car, and Mike, I know your NASCAR pit crews are fast, but I don't know that you've seen much like these rally car pit crews. They've got his car, what was totaled before he came in here, and in 10 minutes he's in his car and he said, gonna give it the old college try, which is a perfect quote from the son of a superintendent of schools, right? So he's in the car, he's back out there for this LCQ.
Well, they say the cars are the stars anyway, Alyssa, so we might as well get a report about the car anyway. And it's just remarkable to me. I come from the NASCAR world, and these teams in NASCAR have hours upon hours to prepare their cars in between practice and the actual race. Here, Jen, 10 minutes, amazing.
And cars that you think are totaled, what we saw there with the bar, they're just checking alignment. That's a quick in the field alignment check, make sure the wheels are all pointing in the same direction. The car may not be perfect, but it's going to be as close as it can get for Brian Deegan as he tries to make his way out of this LCQ.
You know, I wonder about the state of mind of drivers knowing this is their last chance to qualify for the final. How much pressure do you think they're feeling? You've been in this position, so to speak. I mean, you're a former co-driver in Rallycross. You certainly know what these drivers are thinking. What do you think the mindset is right now, knowing there's no room for error here?
The pressure's definitely on, and it depends who the driver is. I think in Brian Deegan's case, having a little bit of a mechanical problem, not sure if he's going to get out, and rushing out to the grid here is actually good for him. Putting the pressure on for Brian Deegan, he's shown he can perform under pressure, and I'm looking at him to advance.
And in-car camera from Tanner Faust, and Faust was one of the favorites in his heat and had mechanical problems of his own.
2 flat tires after hitting the wall. This track has been really tough on tires. Tanner was telling me earlier today that yesterday during practice, his team alone, now to be fair, that's 6 of the cars in the field, but his team alone had 9 flat tires between them.
You know, talking with drivers yesterday afternoon during and after practice, it sounded like they weren't really expecting the loads that these cars carry when they go from the flat surface into the banking at speed, and they were tinkering around with front-end geometry and spring settings and things of that nature, just trying to figure out a way to try to kind of come up with a compromise, so to speak, between durability and at the same time not trying to sacrifice corner ability here on the high banks, and that was quite the challenge for some of these engineers and teams.
That is the trick to set up in Rallycross. Everything's a compromise. We have a huge jump. We have tarmac turns that are really tight. You want a nice stiff suspension. We have crazy dirt turns where you want to be a little bit soft so you can get grip and you can make it through the turns. And finding the right compromise setup is the actual secret to running a successful team here. But one of the things that we do see is the 2 WRC prepared cars, the rally prepared cars. That's Ken Block's car and Liam Dorn's car. Those 2 guys, with the suspension they have, designed to do anything, have been performing extremely well here. They advanced directly to the final.
Yep, obviously they've got great race cars as well, and certainly guys you need to watch out for. You know, talk about these wheels, and that has been a story. Brian Deegan, I talked with him yesterday after practice, and he said that same thing happened to him the first time out. He said it's in his head. It's in his head so much now that he's changed his approach to the corners and what have you. Tanner's got to have that in his head too, I would imagine, right now.
This is the first time in Rallycross history we've ever seen a course like this. That's incredible banking, 24
Hey, this is Bristol Motor Speedway. It's never easy. you know the guy who's been fast? Ken Block. He's been incredibly fast, very consistent, and Alyssa's with him.
Yeah, Ken, so into the final, but as you were just saying, that first heat you had was like a final. Tell me about your second heat actually out there.
Yeah, well, on the front row there was Tanner, me, and Deegan all battling in Ford Fiestas, so we went into that first corner all flat out. And as we came around to the second corner, it was going to be a battle as to who made it through that tightening section. And, you know, Tanner and I were door to door, and Deegan was on the outside, and Deegan started to turn in, so I slowed down slightly. And so Deegan, I think, tagged Tanner, and then I just sneaked around on the inside and took off. So, you know, I've had some bad luck this year, so it was nice to have a little bit of good luck because I kind of had a terrible start in that heat. And hey, now I'm going in the finals with #1 seed again. So I'm really stoked. Now I just got to hopefully have that same luck, you know, in the final.
Right, and you're looking for your first win this season here in GRC. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned on these bank turns. You have a little bit of experience in that Gymkhana car out in France, but what have these few days been like out here?
It's actually been amazing. You know, my racecraft is, you know, rally cars and a bit in rallycross, and you know, I've learned a lot in circuit racing, but once you add a bank in, I don't know what this car is going to do. So it's been a real learning experience yesterday and today, and I've really enjoyed it. It's fun kind of taking something new and applying my skills and learning. And you know, I won qualifying this morning and was able to lead, you know, win both my heats. So it feels really good to learn that, but it's incredibly fun. I wish there was more to the track, but being on those banks and going up and down them is just incredibly fun.
Great. Well, we will see you in what is certainly your second final of the day in a few minutes here.
Yeah, thank you.
And Jim, what'd you take from that conversation?
Ken Block's been on fire. He was a half second quicker than anybody else when we saw him go through seating, and he's doing very well. Great performance by Ken, and like I say, he's in one of those cars with the rally suspension. This is a Rallycross. These Rallycross cars are set up really upright and kind of stiff, and the rally car suspensions are really subtle, and they're designed to carve in dirt. And Ken Block, #1 qualifier, #2, Liam Doran, both of those guys in WRC original cars.
All right, well, you can see the field about set up. We'll take a look at our royal purple starting grid. This is your last chance qualifier. 3 cars do advance. Timur Zanoff in the Red Bull car at the top of your screen, filling in for Travis Pastrana. Bucky Lasek is also in this field. Brian Deegan as well. And the 99 of Bryce Menzies. Pretty stout field, I'd say.
It is a stout field, and some unusual people in this last chance qualifier. Drivers that you do not expect to see here. Brian Deegan getting himself psyched up to go there, and that is the view from Tanner Faust's windshield. That's a lot of car in front of him. That's not what he wants to see.
And inside Timur Zanoff's car, Russian driver, trying to put up a big showing here as well. The royal purple starting grid coming your way. And Bryce Menzies, Brian Deegan, Timur Zanoff in row 1. Number 4 laps, 3 cars advance to the final. Bucky Lasek, Dave Mira, Scott Speed in the white car, top of your screen in row number 2. And Tanner Faust has to come from the 3rd row, Jen.
That's going to be a really, really tough thing to do. We've seen even with 4 or 5 cars coming into what is actually turn 2, that pinch point, it's really hard for a car to get ahead and come through that, and that's really the trick, and it's very hard to do that from the 2nd, or in Tanner's case, the 3rd row.
And, you know, he wanted to come here and put what happened in New Hampshire behind him. It was a bitter disappointment. It was his race. He was a corner away from picking up the victory, and made a mistake, and it cost him a podium finish. He was hoping to kind of, as he said, use that as motivation, as good, not for evil, and hoping to put that behind him. Well, he's got his work cut out for him here. 7 seconds to go, and you can see the red lights lighting up on the Christmas tree. We go black, and we go green. And up to the gearbox is Deegan. Deegan going to the top of the banking. It looked like he opened up that inside lane. Nobody was able to take advantage. Bucky Lasek all the way to the top, and he gets bottled up toward the back. And up front, though, it looks like Deegan has a 2-car length advantage. 1 car taking the Joker lap on the 1st lap, but Deegan's in control.
Great driving from Brian Deegan off the start. His team owner says when he looks at the data, he's got 6 cars data to look at. When he looks at the data, he sees Brian Deegan goes through the gears faster than anybody else. He just manages to get through them and click through them faster, and that gives him just a fraction of a second on every gear change. And we saw that coming off the start. Basically equally matched cars in that front. Well, wow, look, that's Tanner Faust. He's pulled all the way into the 2nd position.
Not wasting any time. He knows what he has to do to advance to the final. Doesn't want to go out without a big fight. He's putting it on here in the LCQ, trying to reel in Brian Deegan. Deegan taking the jump and feeling the pressure from Faust. Faust right there. My goodness, he closed that gap quickly.
Amazing to get all the way from the 3rd row into the 2nd position, chasing down Deegan here. These guys are teammates, and there goes Tanner into the Joker. Ooh, I thought that was going to be a mistake, but it just worked for him. Opened a little bit of a gap. It means he's not going to be sprayed as much dirt and rocks into his windscreen.
I'll tell you what, that's one of the smoothest moves through the Joker I've seen all afternoon. Came through there, just drifted off the corner, didn't make any contact. Didn't look like he really lost any ground either. White flag waving again. Top 3 advancing to the final. Deegan is out front. Faust is in 2nd. Timur Zanoff right now running 3rd. And taking the Joker lap and not losing any ground is Deegan. Another good run through there.
Really beautiful driving, very clean and smooth, and just to stay out front and not get caught up in any of the mess.
Faust, it'll be interesting to see how much of a charge he mounts here over the jump, and that is it. Deegan picks up the win in the LCQ, followed by Faust and Timur Zanoff. They'll advance to the final. And unfortunately for Buddy Lasek, Bryce Menzies, and Dave Mira, they will not advance. And their afternoon is over here in Thunder Valley. Great run for Brian Deegan.
And absolutely, especially where he didn't even know he was going to make it out there. He said his car was totaled and took it back to the mechanics with nothing left.
It's almost like they built him a whole new race car in 10 minutes.
They can pretty much do that. It's pretty incredible.
Color me impressed. Here's how it all played out here in the LCQ. 7 cars going for the 3 spots, and Tanner Faust, look, from the 3rd row. How many spots did he pick up here in that first corner? At least 3. Going through the 2nd corner, he picks up another 2 spots. He's 3rd after the first 2 turns.
Amazing to muscle through some very risky corners. This is Faust on board. Let's see what it looks like from his perspective. Right on Scott Speed's tail, finds some room on the inside and just slides through.
Yeah, Brian Deegan was out front most of the day, but the story was Tanner Faust rallying back from a problem he had in his first heat. And, well, take a look at Deegan. Through the Joker. Didn't hit anything. Didn't look like he lost any speed. Didn't look like he lost any ground.
Very smooth driving from Brian. He's improved so much. He's brand new a couple years ago to the sport and ended up with a medal at X Games. And you can see here really quite a lot of confidence from a guy who's ultimately a motocross racer and a short course off-road racer.
Yeah, and no reason not to have confidence. He's learned this racetrack pretty quickly. All these drivers here for the first time, and all about learning as quickly as you can. His team obviously came ready for the challenge. They prepared a pretty good race car. They had some problems in practice. They identified them. They corrected them, and obviously the handling and the balance on this race car extremely good, especially evident by the way he got through the Joker.
It's still going to be tough for him. He did manage to get through this LCQ, but that means he starts on the back row. Although, as I say, as we've seen before with Brian Deegan, being in the back row doesn't seem to be much of a deficit for him. It sort of inspires him and gets him going.
He likes starting from back?
I think that when he's got a bit of adversity in front of him, it pushes him to perform better.
He is an aggressive driver. Let's check in with Alyssa, who's with Brian Deegan.
Brian, I'll just ask you what Jen just said. It looks like you like adversity. You like starting from the back there. What do you have to say about that?
I'm looking forward to the main event. You know, your mind changes a lot. When I was down and out, didn't think I was going to make the main. My guys worked super hard, got the car back together. It's definitely a battered dog. It's beaten, it's shaking and everything, but I'm like, you know what? Oh, well, I'm in the main, so the dude who took me out of the qualifier, you better watch out.
So what can I add to that, guys? What can I add to that?
Oh, my goodness. Some things never change here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Last August, we saw Tony Stewart throwing a helmet, and Brian Deegan throwing down some smack talk now as well. And, well, hey, we've got the Global Rallycross lights here next, Jen. Kind of a development series.
This is the 2nd round of the Global Rallycross Championship Lights Series. These are it's a spec series, identical cars, 310 horsepower, and some up-and-coming Rallycross drivers.
Our royal purple starting grid, Yomi Veeman, Kevin Eriksson, Sebastian Eriksson. They're not related, but they are very competitive drivers nonetheless, trying to make a name for themselves and move up to Global Rallycross Supercars. Alexander Westlund, Jeffrey Sykes, and Austin Dine make up your field. They're in row number 2. Still got a little bit of time now. This is an interesting series. Identically prepared cars for the most part. Drivers trying to really hone their skills in advance. I would say, as a NASCAR guy, the equivalent of the Nationwide Series, trying to make their move to the Sprint Cup Series. These drivers still trying to showcase their talents and prove they know what they're doing. 3 seconds from the green flag, Jen. We go green. Everybody grabbing some gears, getting on the throttle and trying to find the right line into turn number 1. And Sebastian Eriksson in the red car moves to the high line, now to the low line, looking to the inside. And Veeman is your leader coming through the corner. 2 cars taking the Joker at the same time and just barely avoiding a collision on the exit, and trouble, big trouble coming off, and 1 car on its lid. Red flag here in the Rallycross lights.
Wow, that is a big crash. These cars are built strong. That's Kevin Eriksson upside down on his roof, son of Andreas Eriksson, the designer of this class of cars.
And you can see close quarters racing coming through the Joker at the exit of the Joker, making their way onto the banking, and it looked like Eriksson just miscalculated a little bit. Well, actually, he couldn't control the slide. It looks like he was out of control there and just couldn't get around the barriers.
Taps the wall, gets sideways, and then on that transition from the apron into the banking, it just caught a wheel and flipped him up onto his lid.
Yeah, and safety crews on the scene looking inside that race car. And he's out. Great to see that, always. Seeing a driver walk away from a crash like that and still has the wherewithal to try to close the door.
Wants to keep the car together, just 16 years old. That's a big crash. He races in Sweden in the Folk Race Series, which is a real development, kind of grassroots series, with a couple of his friends, including in the field here, Alexander Westland and Sebastian Eriksson.
And assessing damage, as you mentioned, his father, a prominent owner in this series. Just to draw a comparison to the folks who might be NASCAR fans who are watching today, you know, his father, Andreas Eriksson, maybe the equivalent of Rick Hendrick, perhaps Jack Roush, perhaps Roger Penske, that well known in this series, in this industry, really. You know, his son trying to follow in those footsteps and make a name for himself.
One of the leading rallycross preparers in the world from Sweden, and this kid here, Kevin Eriksson, has been in rallycross since he was a little kid. His dad was a racer and is a race car preparer, and you can see him there. He's saying, hey, I'm fine. Disappointing, though.
All right, let's take another look. It was dramatic, to say the least. Couple of cars going through the Joker. Now Eriksson out in front of them, and maybe he gave a wide berth to some of them, and that may have led to the problems. We can't speculate exactly what happened, but certainly he was out of control as he came to the end of that barrier, clipped it, flipped the car upside down, landed on its roof, but as we saw, and we're all thankful for this, he was able to walk away under his own power.
The racing is so close in this GRC Live Series. It's all down to the driving. The cars are identical, so you can't give an inch anywhere. He was just very aggressive into that corner, got a little sideways, and it backfired on him.
But like we said, looks pretty spry. Doesn't look like he's hurt at all. And he's going to take that obligatory ride in the ambulance back to the infield, back to the paddock area, I'm sure. But it seems like he's more concerned about his race car.
You know what it looks like to me? He's saying, push it over and let me get back in and race.
You know what? I saw Dale Earnhardt do that at a Daytona 500 once. They did turn it over, and he got back in and raced. So you got to admire that.
You do. The fighting spirit of these guys in Rallycross. You know, just no adversity will stop them.
You know, we saw teams fix other cars in about 10 minutes. Obviously, he's got nowhere else to race, but these teams are so skilled. I have no question that they'll be able to get that thing repaired and ready to race next time out.
They will. I mean, these cars, there's a number of them in the field. I think we saw 9 of them here today, and they are all identical, so the parts all swap in between them. About 310 horsepower, as we see, built pretty strong here, purpose-built for the sport. So unlike the supercars, which are adapted production cars that have been redeveloped into race cars, these cars are purpose-built. They're like 9/10 scale Ford Fiestas is kind of what they look like when they're out there.
How do the horsepower in these cars compare to what we're seeing in the supercars?
About half.
About half.
So the supercars are anywhere, depending on which car it is, between 450 to probably just over 6. And these cars, almost the same weight as the supercars, just a little bit lighter, and 310 horsepower, mid-engine, all-wheel drive, sequential transmissions. They're pretty impressive machines.
It would seem in this series, getting off the corner as quickly as possible is a very, very large part of the equation. So torque, I would imagine, is a big deal. The torque in the lights compared to the supercars, I've been told, is about the same. So, you know, the cornering ability, you know, you're getting a lot of real-life experience in this series that might translate to the next series if you're able to make that jump.
And the idea is to give these guys identically prepared cars to get accustomed to the sport before they make the move up into the supercar class. And it gives them a really great chance to just get out there and race. No question, hey, does that guy have a slightly better engine? Is that guy's turn-in better? Does that guy's suspension work better? They're identical. It's all down to driving.
And you can see cleanup continues here after Kevin Eriksson's crash, a violent crash. He was able to walk away from it. Here's how the race started for the lights. The red car, Sebastian Eriksson on the outside of Wieman. Wieman, I should say, and applying the pressure is Eriksson, but Wieman able to really get a good jump.
And Joni Wieman is a protege of Marcus Grönholm, great driver.
Meanwhile, Tanner Faust collecting his thoughts, getting ready for the Global Rallycross Supercars final coming up momentarily. Was able to make a comeback in the LCQ. What a race and what a show he put on, coming from the third row, blasting into the first and second corners, and immediately putting himself in contention for that final. And he figures to be one of the guys to watch once we take the green flag there.
He's going to start in the third row, and he's just envisioning what it looks like to not have any traffic in front of him.
And speaking of the Global Rallycross Supercars, here's your race summary. What we've seen so far. Race number 1, and Tanner Faust on the inside in that black and yellow car. Brian Deegan, his teammate, out front. Tanner Faust had some issues in this heat race.
Hits the wall there and knocks 2 tires off the beat.
Yep, and that would force him to work from behind. Meanwhile, Ken Block, he's been nothing short of, well, I'd say perfect so far this week. The #1 seed, winning his heats. He's been pretty good. Second heat. And here we go, Liam Doran, one guy to watch in the black Monster Energy car. And, well, problems for Teamer Zanoff going through the Joker.
That's Patrick Sandell over the jump.
And Sandell was very strong as well. Your third heat, Sverre Isaacson up top in the white car. That's Scott Speed. He tries to get through the corner and gets punted out of the way, and that would end his day. Meanwhile, up front, Sverre Isaacson, Steve Arpin down low. They'll get by Bryce Menzies. The shortcut didn't look so short for Menzies on that one.
Great driving from Menzies. He didn't even get to practice because he was competing in Chicagoland in the Torque Series.
And Isaacson over the jump at your LCQ. Last chance qualifier. The show really, in my mind, was Tanner Faust coming from that third row, making a bonsai move down into turn number 1, through turn number 2, getting up underneath yet another race car, and once again putting himself in contention. He knew what he had to do in this LCQ, and he got the job done.
He's threading the needle there to get through all the traffic, and right on Brian Deegan's tail, putting the pressure on, but he just needed to be one of the top 3 guys to get across the line.
Yep, didn't use up all his equipment, still needs to have it for the final. And here's how it'll look for the final. Ken Block, Patrick Sandell, Sverre Isaacson, Toby Heikkinen. He's been pretty good this year, I'd say. He's won the last 2 events. Liam Doran, well, maybe looking for a little payback from what happened in Munich. Steve Arpin, Brian Deegan, Tanner Faust, and Teamer Zanoff.
And speaking of payback, you know, I think Brian Deegan's probably taking a look at Topi Heikkinen too. If he's in his way, there may be some bumping. Liam Doran, Topi better watch himself in this one.
It'll be fun to watch, that's for sure. You know what, Steve Arpin, he has some NASCAR background, and in fact, he said it was his dream to one day race here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Never got the chance in the Nationwide Series, making his Bristol Motor Speedway debut here in the Global Rallycross. And we are going to re-rack, so to speak, and that's what they do after a red flag in the lights, and we'll do a restart here, Jen.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, having watched a big crash for these guys. Many of them younger, inexperienced racers coming up to the start line. Maybe a little bit of nerves as they get in there.
Here's a look at some of the specs we were talking about earlier with the GRC lights. Custom-built spec cars built by Andreas Eriksson. Basically a showcase of talent for these upcoming drivers. The equivalent, we would say, of maybe the truck series, the Nationwide Series in NASCAR, someplace where these drivers can hone their skills and prove themselves. And it's a developmental series for these young drivers to perhaps one day advance.
There's a couple of drivers in here, in fact, who are too young to even have driver's licenses for the road. One of them being Kevin Eriksson. Alyssa, I hear he was just let out of the care center.
He was, Jen, and we're down here with him. Kevin, that was pretty spectacular for us to see on from outside of the car. What was that like for you, and how are you feeling?
Of course, I would rather have been in the front and could have won this race, but now I did a mistake, came a little too quick into the corner and ended up pretty bad. But the car looks quite okay, so I think we will be ready for next weekend also.
What about you?
I feel okay.
So you're both good to go. All right, we'll see you next week. Guys, back to you guys.
Thank you, Alyssa. It was interesting from that replay. You could see the brake lights come on. I mean, he was on the binders going through there, doing everything he possibly could to keep it off the barrier. Just couldn't do it. But obviously in good spirits, and no worse for the wear.
Well, and interesting to hear him describe the car as looking as quite okay. And
considering what it went through, yeah, I'd say it looks quite okay. It was upside down. It almost looks like he could drive it away at this point. He might try. Looking at the roof, it looked like everything in that car did its job, Jen. I mean, the roll cage, everything. I mean, that car doesn't look, like it was on its roof moments ago.
No, very stoutly
a little scuffed up, but not really caved in or anything.
Yeah, very stoutly built. And again, this is a development series. The cars are still very competitive race cars. You see the body doesn't align quite as well as it did at the beginning of the day today, but he's looking at it and sussing it out, and he's, well,
the door doesn't shut, so I guess the frame might be a little bent.
They'll fix that, though, and they will be able to get it straight again, no problem.
All right, we're getting closer to our restart here in the lights final. As Kevin Eriksson picks up his helmet, collects his thoughts, and we'll try to put this one behind him. Don't want to think about it too long because you don't want to take your mind off of what it needs to be paying attention to, and that, of course, is the next race. And, well, for the lights, we're going to restart here and basically start from the beginning.
Yeah, so they get another shot at it here. There's Joni Vieman, as I was saying earlier, protege of Marcus Grönholm, two-time World Rally Champion, has been giving this guy some coaching. Very talented young driver. Formula Renault is hitting his background, finished second in that series in 2010, and has been doing Rallycross. Great to see him here. He finished first at our opening round in New Hampshire.
Yep, and you see Jeff Sykes on the other side there in the black car with a little bit of blue trim on it. Sykes has been pretty strong as well. See if he can mount the charge here when the green flag comes back out.
And you can hear the engines naturally aspirated, and they really rev high when they hit the throttle. Slightly different driving. It's about conserving momentum here. They don't have that turbocharged power to pull them out of the corners.
And we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Drivers getting a little bit of forewarning that they'll be receiving the green flag very shortly. Red lights are on. They'll go black, and then we'll get the green. Green it is. And once again, up through the gearbox, and Joni Vieman with the jump. Can they reel him in? Oh, the battle for second is on. 3 wide through corner number 1.
That's a risky move, and it's tough going into that first corner when it funnels in, but they managed to all escape without damage. We're looking at Austin Dine here in the Royal Purple car. He is coached by Steve Arpin.
And Alexander Westland right on his rear deck, following his tire tracks through the corner, but Westland takes a higher line through the turn. Trying to make that work, but they'll funnel back down single file as they go through the S's, the chicane, and through the dirt area. Everybody trying to reel in Vieman, who just got an amazing jump and just kind of took off.
Again, these cars are identical, so as we watch them do different lines, we can really see what is fastest on this track.
And remind folks, the banking here, not just one steady incline. It's variable degrees of banking from 24 degrees at the bottom to 30 degrees at the top. So driver's choice, which line they want to run, may make a difference.
Absolutely, and we've got Westland in the green there, having gone through the Joker. And look at them jump. These are impressive race cars, 310 horsepower, and they can clear that whole tabletop jump.
Yep, they're fun to watch. We've got some great camera angles down there on that tabletop. Watching them get air, spectacular, let me tell you. Very exciting racing. Even though this is the developmental series, they're not holding back, as we witnessed there early on with Kevin Eriksson's crash. He was pushing it as hard as he possibly could.
No, this is some serious competition. Joni Vieman still out front very confidently here. That Royal Purple car is Austin Dine, finished 6th in New Hampshire just a week ago.
Yep, and the field making their way onto the dirt area. This is a difficult place. We talk about coming off the dirt, Jen, getting into the banking. What about coming off the bank and getting into the dirt?
Every transition between two different surfaces is a challenge, and it's up to the drivers to figure out what works better for them and what works better for their car. And it's a place where we get to see driving styles. Are they sideways? Are they carving as smoothly as they can? I think in these cars, and I think for the most part, carving through those turns and carving through those transitions and trying to maximize grip is the way to go.
All right, Vieman, Dine, and Westland round out your top 3 here in the Global Rally Car Lights race. And we can see Vieman taking the Joker lap, getting that out of the way. And pushing his way through the corner, making his way toward the checkers. This is the final for the lights. Veman very much in control, unchallenged to this point. White flag, one lap remaining.
So it's up to Veman now just to keep it steady. He's done the Joker lap. He doesn't have that obstacle in front of him anymore, and just to keep it steady and stay out front. Austin Dine, who's in second position right now, has not yet done it. He has to go. There he goes now. And it works. He manages to hold on to that second position. Still not going to mount a challenge. Veman very much in control, very consistent and smooth through the corners. It's going to pay off, gets a little bit of air there, plants the nose on the other side of the tabletop jump, but it doesn't matter. Checker flag in the air and a victory for him. Joni Veman, your winner of the GRC Lights. Coming up, folks, don't go away. We've got the Supercars final coming up next from Thunder Valley. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bristol Motor Speedway for Global Rallycross. The final is upon us. The field has been set, and some big names looking for some glory here in Thunder Valley. Mike Massaro here with Jen Horsey bringing you the action, and we're just about to get underway. Topi Heikkinen, your championship leader,
And here's a little snapshot of what he's done so far in his career. And coming back from a big injury a year ago in LAX games, he shattered his ankle, but has come back very strong here in 2013. He's won the last 2 Global Rallycross events. It hasn't been easy, though. He's had a lot of competition, and will face it once again here in this final game.
Absolutely. Very competitive. He's finished on the podium every single round this year.
Liam Doran will be part of that competition, and well, when it comes to Doran and Heikkinen, no love lost. Had a little bit of an issue in Munich not too long ago, and Doran, here's a little snapshot of his career, competing on the European Rallycross circuit as well. But Doran not too happy with Heikkinen after the last race in Munich. Actually slapped him after Heikkinen was given the checkered flag. It was very visual. We saw that, and perhaps that will flush out here in this race. Alyssa is on the paddock. She's been covering all the action down there. She's got a report, Alyssa, on Deegan.
Yeah, Mike, you heard Deegan say earlier that he had quite a bumpy ride in that LCQ. Well, his frame had completely snapped, and when he was back in the paddock, they welded it back together, but were afraid that any big compression would just snap it apart. So he said, have you ever seen me be so ginger over the jump? But coming out of that first turn, it compressed a lot. He said, I thought my car was going to completely break apart. He's going to be dealing with that in this final as well, but he said, hey, I came here to drive aggressively, and going into that first turn, I am aiming for the front of the pack.
What do you think of that approach, Jen?
Brian Deegan does not seem to be hurt when he starts in the 3rd row. It's good for his attitude. He likes it. He psychs himself up here on the start line as he's getting gridded up here, and he has done some amazing moves from the back row. What I'm going to look to see him do is break way late in that first turn and maybe try and make a move on that bank into the 2nd.
Yeah, and Ken Block has looked awfully good as well. He's been very fast, #1 seed. He's been winning heat races. He's been flawless, really. It seems like this course, as challenging as it has been for many, has really not fazed him in the least.
No, and he's enjoying this course. Ken Block is never happier than when he has a chance to drive flat out on something. And to have a course here that none of these guys have ever seen anything like this before, everybody's feeling it out. And he's enjoying, I think, that mental challenge of trying to figure out what is the fastest way around this course and to be flat out on it.
All right, here's your royal purple starting grid. The winners of the heat start in that front row. That's Sverre Isaksson in the blue and yellow car on the bottom of your screen. In the middle, Patrick Sandell, Ken Block up top. The guys who finished 2nd in their heats, that's row #2. And, well, that is Steve Arpin down low in that black and red car. In the middle, Topi Heikkinen in the middle, and Liam Doran up top, followed by the guys who came through the LCQ, Teamer Zanoff, Tanner Faust, and Ryan Deegan.
Incredibly competitive final. That back row, all 3 of those guys are guys that I would pick to win this. Very tough to do from the back row. And maybe it's Patrick Sandell's. He's finished on the podium, won his first heat of the year so far today, and maybe this is his turn.
It's going to be fun to watch those guys from row #3 try to blast their way to the front. Things do get awfully congested going down into turn #1 and turn #2. We've seen that already this afternoon. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out. And to see how quickly guys get up to the gearbox and try to make their passes before they even get to that area.
And notice Ken Block on the top. He's in that #1 starting position. He picked the middle before, but I think he thinks the inside line is the way to go.
We're about to find out. The command to go is coming your way in just a matter of moments. Green flag. And they are off. Tanner Faust again making a move. A lot of congestion up front. Sandell, Isaksson 4 wide, almost 5 wide into turn #1. Who's not going to make it? And Sandell got punted out of the way. Topi Heikkinen is your leader.
How did Topi come all the way through all that mess and end up way out front into that 2nd challenging corner? Amazing move. That was incredible into that 2nd corner.
Yeah, and Heikkinen very smooth and obviously very confident after a couple of wins. Munich, New Hampshire, said he carried a lot of confidence into Bristol. He also said it brought a lot of pressure because people are expecting him to perform at a very high level, which is what he's doing right now. Meanwhile, behind him, things kind of spreading out. Isaksson holding down the 2nd spot. Steve Arpin, kind of surprising. He's holding down the 2nd spot. Wasn't sure there for a moment as Isaksson came through the Joker.
Steve Arpin's done well. He's been very consistent this year. He's just kind of always in the hunt, and his time will come. He's new to this sport, and he's learning it really fast. Look, there we've got an onboard over the jump. Look at that air.
Love it. Folks, just a reminder, Sports Center coming on immediately following our broadcast here from the Bristol Motor Speedway. We're in the middle of our final for Global Rallycross. And Ken Block, he's been great throughout the course of the week, Jim, but he's got some work to do.
He does. Toppy has a pretty substantial lead, and that fight now that Ken is in, it's going to be hard to challenge him.
Hitting the jump, making his way over it. And we've got problems for Steve Arpin. Arpin had been so good. What a disappointing end to his day.
And that's him pulling off. You're not allowed to bypass a feature and continue, so that is it for Steve Arpin. But there's Toppy still way out front.
Working lap 4 of 10. Down through the chicane, up through the tabletop, over the jump, ever so smooth. And it looks like he's actually spreading the distance between himself and Ken Block. Ken Block, though, we've seen him make up differences of this in the past, and certainly no reason to count him out now.
And we just saw Ken Block going past what looks like Tanner Faust stopped on the side of the course. Ken was in seating when they were running laps on their own, a second a lap faster than Toppy. Maybe just has enough time to catch up.
And he may need all that time here if he wants to reel him in. Toppy's been perfect. I mean, extremely smooth, hasn't missed a beat, a great line through the corners. On board now with Tanner Faust and more problems. It looks like his day's over as well.
But there is Toppy still out front. But as we saw at the last round, it ain't over till it's over, and he's got to keep his head together until he gets through that checker.
Yeah, folks, if you watched New Hampshire, you would have said Tanner Faust had that whole thing wrapped up. But if you had turned the channel 30 seconds from the end, you would have missed a great finish because, as it turned out, Topi Heikkinen capitalizing on a miscue by Faust. So that certainly could happen here. Ken Block hoping to see a bit of a miscue that would allow him to close the gap and challenge for this victory here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Toppy working the top angle of the banking, the 30-degree part, and coming right down on the apron and through the gravelish area, over the jump. Man, unfazed, very smooth.
And it's tough. Block is trying to close this gap, and it's not really coming together for him. He's been so fast here. #1 qualifier, second faster in seating. And yet he's making little moves in some portions of the track, and then Toppy just pulls away.
And Toppy just took the Joker as well. Didn't change anything. He's still got a significant advantage over Ken Block. This is shocking considering how good Block had been to this point.
Yeah, you see the gap has narrowed a little bit there, but Block still has to take that Joker lap, which is worth a couple car lengths, and that's about the difference that he's closed up. He's going to be trying to put the pressure on for as long as he can and see what happens. And there we're looking at Sandel's car.
Yeah,
looking a little the worse for wear as it slides through that turn.
You got to go back to find the action because the top two drivers have checked out from the field. Sverre Iseksen, it looks a little bit off the pace there as the field goes up underneath him. And Topi lapping people here on this tight half-mile course.
Could be good for Ken Block. Absolutely, that's going to be good for Ken Block because when they get caught up in that traffic there, that slows Toppy down and gives Block a chance to climb back as we are in the final lap.
White flag is out. Can Block catch him? Working their way through the chicane, up through the banking. Topi working the middle groove and now diving down to the final chicane, setting up for the jump. Checkers are out. Topi Heikkinen wins his third Global Rallycross event in a row.
And Ken Block in #2 and #3 look to be Sverre Iseksen there. That will be the first podium for him this season.
And just pure dominance by Topi Heikkinen. Let's see how this all played out. We're watching that third row, seeing if Tanner Faust could make those moves that he made in the LCQ, and he tried. Got down to the bottom of the track, but man, up front, 4, 5 wide going into turn 1. Sandel gets punted out of the way, and Topi takes the advantage.
That's a credit for him just staying out of trouble. Watch, he gets on the brakes early, stays out of the mess. A whole bunch of crashing happens in front of him, and he just dives in and takes the lead.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of drivers might get a little out of shape there, but Topi just watched it all play out in front of him, watching cars slide left to right. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to slide to the inside here and take the lead. What an amazing win. Topi Heikkinen celebrating victory in Thunder Valley. When we come back, we'll catch up with him. Don't go away, folks. Rallycross Championship is brought to you by Sylvania. Sylvania ZXE, high octane headlights, and GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. Time now to go to Victory Lane with Alyssa.
You're getting used to being down here. So, Topi, before this race, I asked you what it meant to race here at Bristol Motor Speedway. You said, I'm European. I don't know much about this track. What does it mean to you now, Bristol Motor Speedway?
Yeah, it means a lot right now. It's a one memory more than in my life, but in case the team made a brilliant job. My Ford Fiesta is on fire right now, and I'm so happy and I really enjoy it.
Well, you're smiling before, you're smiling still. Congratulations, Topi.
And congratulations to Topi Heikkinen picking up his third consecutive victory in Global Rallycross. Look at your finish. Heikkinen followed by Ken Block, Brian Deegan rounding out your top three. Spirit Isekson fourth, Patrick Zandel fifth, Steve Harpin sixth, Tanner Faust seventh, Timur Zanov eighth, and Liam Doran ninth. Coming up next, Sports Center, folks. Don't go away. Global Rallycross apparel provided by Puma. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Jen Horsey, Alyssa Ronick, I'm Mike Massaro. Thanks for joining us here from Thunder Valley. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you next time, folks. Have a great afternoon. Congratulations to Topi Heikkinen.